All right, boys, what's up? We are live. The final episode of 2023 for Ladies Night. Moff and I were talking about doing this episode for weeks, even just saying, we'll do a solo show, just me and Chris talking about, our experiences, our takeaways. I got like 19 points here that I wanted to talk about. I'm sure Moff's got some notes. Moff, what's going on, brother?
It's happening. Yeah, the setup tonight is going to be a little bit different. I'm on the road traveling for the holidays, but here tuned in, and yeah, I'm excited to dive into this, man. I think it's been an interesting ride so far, and yeah, I'm glad to look back on it and see, going forward, what's it going to look like and how it's been so far.
Yeah. There's a whole bunch of stuff to cover here, man. Because like, I think the first thing we should do is sort of talk about why we created this playlist. This separate podcast, and I think we kicked it off in the summer for sure. Because I was looking at some of the older videos. I'm like, dude, man, you got a nice tan there back in the summertime. But it must have been around August, I think, that we sort of kicked this off, and there was there was a 38 or 39-year-old fitness chick that called in on one show, and she was asking a lot of really interesting questions, and it sort of cooked up the idea, why don't we do the same sort of thing that we're doing with the Unplugged Alpha playlist, but just do it for ladies only and just call it Ladies Night. And that was sort of the catalyst to the whole thing. Now, a lot of things happened that were surprises, and there's a lot of things that happened that were just like kind of expected that to sort of go. Let's do kind of like a little bit of a recap on what was the biggest surprise for you with Ladies Night.
Yeah, biggest surprise is, man, that's a great question. I would say biggest surprise is I was surprised at how easy it was. I would say the success rate or how many women were willing to come on. I I think the reputation of these kind of podcasts that are out there and the panel style show, I think they have mostly a negative connotation with women. And I definitely had some interactions and some conversations with women that were like, "Oh, you're just one of those red pill podcasts, and you bring
Mm,
on women and you talk crap to them and this and that." But I would say for you know, I probably messaged a few hundred, if not a few thousand women over the last 4 or 5 months. And the ones that would respond were really enthusiastic about it, or, they really looked forward to it and they thought they could add value. But um, as far as a big surprise, I would say, I don't know. I don't know if I was much surprised by much. I think the willingness to come on was a little bit, it was a refresher more than it was surprising. But I think how the show sort of played out is almost exactly as we both expected in a lot of aspects.
mm.
Um, I think honestly, the biggest surprise for me is like how many women can't figure out basic technology. Like,
Show up
can't
on time,
their
not flake.
cameras don't work. They don't show up on time. They can't do microphones.
Yeah.
Just very basic level stuff. That was always it's always a
They can
hassle
throw
to me.
filters on a picture like a fucking magician, but to show up on time and, click a link and be there ready for the show
Yeah, it's like
when it
quantum
goes.
physics for a lot of them.
Yeah, because there's been times where, we sort of talked offline. You're like, I've got like four girls or five girls lined up. Is that too many? And it's like, you know, at the rate that they flake and with the tech issues that they have, I don't think it'll ever be a problem if we've got more, lined up than what we would normally want to work with. Because we usually like to work with like two minimum two, three,
Yeah, I
max
never
like
did with
four or
fewer than
five.
two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the biggest surprise for me is the importance that women put on reputation management, right? It's like you'll ask them a straightforward question. What kind of guy are you looking for, right? Oh, just a nice guy sort of thing. Okay, so like a Walmart greeter, so that's totally fine. Yeah, that might be totally fine as long as he's a nice guy. And there's nice guys at Walmart, they make a lot more money too. And it's like they always dance around the subject. And it always seems like you won't get to straight, like to the point answers if you're lucky in the show, but if you do, it's more towards the end. Like that seems to be
Yeah.
where more of the useful conversations go. But I was, I don't know. I mean,
You've always got
uh,
to kind of Jedi mind trick it a little bit. Like, well,
yeah,
it's interesting because there was multiple times where we would ask the question, like the income one comes up a lot. What does the guy have to make? You talk about the Walmart greeter, But then, 10 minutes, 15 minutes later, we're kind of coming back to the subject. And the question is like,
There's a
well,
conflict.
you make X amount and you want to be with a guy that can be on your level, which is what you said as a woman, and you want to be able to fund this lifestyle. So let's go back to that $35,000 a year comment. Does that
How
still
does that
hold
work out?
water? And they're kind
Yeah.
of sheepish and they go, oh, yeah, I guess not.
Yeah.
Right. So you really have to kind of step them through it because their initial reaction, their initial inclination is to protect that reputation and be a good chimp, essentially.
Yeah. They don't want to come off as judgmental, being called out by public, in ways that might compromise their the optics of the representative. I think women are really, really concerned with the optics of the representative. I've I've talked in solo videos before about how a lot of the times guys will get involved with a chick, invite her into his life, maybe, take her to the church and, have his nuptials sort of thing. And it's like when you say I do, that's when the representative leaves. And I think that the the significance that women put on managing their reputation of that representative cannot be um, cannot be emphasized enough because it's really, really important to them. That's probably the like one of the other big aha moments that I had doing this as well too. Um, so I got a bunch of notes here. I don't know if you took any notes. Do you have any points you wanted to sort of rip through? You want to sort of alternate through them? Like, what do
Yeah,
you got
I
prepared?
mean, I don't know if I have anything jotted down, but there's definitely some things that I've noticed throughout. I mean, I we can definitely go through some of our most memorable moments, our most memorable guests for sure. And there's
Yeah,
a
let's
lot of
riff them.
things that guys didn't see obviously behind the scenes, and we can kind of protect some names and not
Yeah,
be super vocal about it. But there's a
I'll
lot of
tell you
stuff
what.
that went down after.
I'll tell you what. Why don't we give the viewers a little bit of a
Sure.
teaser? Tell them about one of the things that happened behind the scenes. We'll save the rest of them, for the end of the show.
Yeah, I would say the biggest one is the there was a woman that came on who I would say was pretty tame as a guest. I don't think it was one of our most popular episodes. I don't think that it was one that really popped. It was a huge, or no, it wasn't a huge, popularity as far as spike, but the amount of attention she got, according to her, after was significant. Now, this was also a woman who, and by attention, I mean negative attention. She said she had comments and she had DMs, but she also was somebody that told me that she had been doxxed before. So she didn't even give her real name. She was very hush hush about her
She had
background,
her Instagram and her
but it was all public. Punt's
right, so she
Instagram
put
was
it out public.
public.
Yeah,
She was using it for affiliate links. She was selling products because we talked about this beforehand. I said, "Hey, listen, well, you've got this issue of people doxing you or coming after you. We can totally not put your Instagram handle on the screen." She goes, "Oh, no, no. Well, I'm shadow banned on Instagram. So I would love to get some more exposure." So, where a lot of these women sometimes, I'm not always 1,000% forthcoming about the kind of comments they might see, but I don't hide it if they ask. And so we
mm,
had a very honest conversation. And then for weeks after she appeared on the show, in my DMs, take the videos down. You guys are sending people after me. What happens if a girl deletes herself? So I got to the point where I haven't had to do this with any other guest, but I just said enough and I had to block her so she could just was out of my inbox. So
yeah.
it's yeah, you run into some nut jobs for sure.
Sticker on the show when I'm running the show. It states right here, guest waive rights to privacy on this live podcast. Like, it's running for a reason, right? Like, if you want to be a guest, shoot Moff a DM. If you want private consults, sort of, do that privately. But yeah, I do remember that because that went on for weeks, and you're like, what should I do? I'm like, we don't need to do anything. Like, there's a ticker on the bottom. She's making a mountain out of a molehill, and you're absolutely right. Like, it was actually one of the episodes where it got very little views in comparison to some of the other ones. So, you get these drama queens in all areas of life, and we don't usually talk about a lot of the stuff publicly on the show that sort of happens behind the scenes, but we'll give you some more towards the end. So we want you guys to stick around, to sort of hear a little bit more of the red meat and the drama that sort of went on. But okay, so let me go to my notes here. The first thing that I noticed when we were sort of going through this is that a lot of these women will vocalize the strong desire to have a high value guy, but they're not willing to do the work to get and retain him. You know, it's interesting because when guys call in on, the unplugged alpha, they're like, "Hey, Rich, this is my problem," or sometimes they might dance around and they can't articulate it properly, and I'll just say something like, "Okay, I've got a magic wand and I wave it to solve this problem. What does it look like?" And then they can articulate it. Women are actually aware that they've got, an issue because they live through it, right? They go out there, they put themselves out there, they're using dating apps, they're not getting the results they want, the kind of guys that they want, or they're being let down, whatever it happens to be, like any combination of it. But when you start to talk to women about accountability, and I know that, this has been said many times before, accountability and women is like kryptonite sort of thing. They don't really go together. It's like oil and water. But, to have conversations like, the three things that really attract a guy and keep him around is being very useful to him in his life, doing the nastiest, sluttiest thing essentially that you've never done with any other guy because you've got such strong desire for him, and never disrespecting him, right? And it's like a lot of these women, they can't even do those three basic things. They don't even want to hear about the significance of these three basic things. They just sort of breeze over them, or they're like, "I'll just find my guy," like, we had this come up when we talk about guy friends, for example, you know, um, there was a gal that we had on one of the shows, a blonde girl. I've got the video queued up over here on my right hand side. Let me just see if I can throw it up on the screen. Yeah, this one here.
My
You're gonna
guess
recognize.
is Jordan or Kayla.
Yeah, I think it was Kayla. Tradcon. No, it was. You guys will recognize her when I put her up on the screen. This one here. So this gal over here.
Kayla.
I can't play it because if I try to play them simultaneously while we're doing the cast, we kind of lose bandwidth. But you guys can go back to that one. That was the one from 3 months ago. And what was the title I put on that one? Just Ladies Night. I've been trying to get better with the titles. That's the other thing that I've been trying to do to improve, is at least put something in the titles afterwards, like what we discussed in the show. But this one here was a metalhead, like to go to the rock concerts with her guy friends. And it's like, the conversation piece came up where she described the ultimate guy. And then she's presented with the conundrum of the ultimate guy is now in your lap. You've had the conversation about exclusivity. You've chosen him. He says, "I want to be with you, but I don't take a woman seriously that keeps guys around." And these women will nonchalantly, we've seen this a few times, cast a guy aside. "Oh, fuck him. I'll just find somebody else then, if he's got these insecurity issues." And the significance of the very limited scope or availability of guys that women want to be with, the ones that they choose, they don't understand that they're rare. They're very rare, right? And, for them to sort of just say no, or "I'll pass," or "I'll find somebody else," and they wonder how they end up single in their late 30s or 40s with nothing to show, but a box wine subscription and a bunch of pets.
Yeah, I mean, we talked right at the beginning of that. You mentioned that these women recognize they have a problem, but I don't even know if that's true. I don't think these women see that as an issue at all. I think
Yeah.
the natural reaction is for them to think that everyone else is at fault, or it's not them, it's everybody else. It's men, right? Modern men are pumper and dumpers. They don't want to date. They don't want to be serious. There's this hookup culture, right? It's if women are alone, it's not their fault, it's everyone else's fault, right? And so they they can't even get past the first step, which is, I want to be in a relationship, I am single, therefore there is a problem, right? So that's almost table stakes for a lot of these conversations, but they're not even willing to admit that. And they get fed this steady diet of, you're perfect. If they don't
Mhm.
see your worth, it's on them, never change. And there's nobody that's telling women that are saying, hey, like, clearly you're not getting what you want out of life, and you're not getting the results. What's more likely? And this is where the idea of logic and rational reasoning and thinking doesn't really land well with women who are obviously ruled by their emotions. It's even something as simple as, you're not getting what you want, you got a string of bad relationships. What's more likely? You found every guy you run into sucks, or you are lacking and you don't have the skills or the wherewithal or the desirability for long-term partnership with these guys, or long-term relationships, excuse me. So, you know, you give that frying pan to the forehead smacking moment, but I think it misses and goes right over their heads because so often they're not getting this kind of stuff. You know, I think we're probably some of the first experiences a lot of these women have with a guy saying, "Yeah, you're probably not all that in a bag of chips. You probably got some things you need to work on." And it's
Mhm.
just so foreign to them that they don't even contemplate that they could be possibly the one with the issue.
Yeah, I got a note here about the absurdity of the fluffing that sort of goes on. I'll talk about that in a sec, but before I do, um, I I just realized that I accidentally put this on the Unplugged Alpha channel and the Entrepreneurs and Cars channel. I'm going to
Oh,
kill
right
the
on.
feed to the Entrepreneurs and Cars channel. Guys, come over to the Unplugged Alpha. It's on YouTube. Just search for it. We're live right now, but I'm just going to end the feed to EIC.